Hi everybody, welcome to my kitchen. My name is John and today we are going to be making meatloaf. Now meatloaf may be one of the most versatile finished products that you can use any night of the week. One of the greatest things about using the ground meat for meatloaf is it already has its own versatility to it. However, you can make meatloaf and you can have it as meatloaf. You can even roll it up and do meatballs with it. It's kind of the same mixture. So there's always that possibility. After it's cooked, you can slice it, serve it hot over your vegetables, and you can also serve it cold over salad and also as a sandwich filling. One of my favorite things to do with meatloaf is to heat it up again the next morning and serve it between two sweet cream pancakes. And I like to call that like the morning loafer, just to be lazy. So when it comes to meatloaf, you season it to the way you like it. And everything is pretty much by feel. Now I am using a recipe today that's kind of off the top of my head, but I do have a hard copy for you to download. And I will be sharing that with you either in the comments below or send you a link if you want to send me a direct message. I will do that as well. So I am working with multiple cameras today to show you how to do this. Now these multiple cameras are not at different angles, they're all straight ahead, and I'm going to do the best I can talking to every one of you. It's very important for me to make eye contact with the filming because it's just more of a conversation, and I love you guys. Thanks for joining me and for this particular thing. It has been requested that I make meatloaf for the longest time, and I put it off, and now we're going to be making it because it is such a simple meal to make. It may be a little time consuming at first, but I'll tell you some great things about it in the future. So right here I have about, well, maybe 1.5 pounds of hamburger and it's ground beef, 80-20% because that's what I had on hand. Knowing that it's going to be kind of fatty, it'll make it a little bit easier for me to choose what kind of pan I'm going to bake it in. Let me get that into the bowl. Okay, get rid of that. And I'm just going to put this under the bowl so it doesn't make a clanging noise as I mix everything by hand. Earlier today, because it is now roughly lunchtime, I made a hollandaise sauce. If you know anything about hollandaise, it uses egg yolks only, and my recipe calls for 2 whole eggs, about medium eggs. I'm just going to be using the leftover whites. It will still act as a great binder, and I'm just going to put this in with that ground meat. Real simple. I'm telling you, this recipe is crazy simple. Okay, I have my binder, but I also need a little bit of breadcrumbs. Usually you would use Italian breadcrumbs or fresh breadcrumbs or even stale bread. My mom always made it with like bread chunks, and it kind of was a little off-putting, but it was still delicious. But I have some panko breadcrumbs here. There's not many in here. I have a new container that I purchased. I'm just going to use the entire thing because I know I can. Take care of that. Now I can throw this away, and that new one's already purchased. Put that over here. I like a little bit of interesting texture as well as flavor in my meatloaf. I don't like a standard meatloaf so much because who does? Everybody has a different recipe. My recipe includes chopped onions and also garlic. Let me just get this out of here. And also, I'm going to be adding walnuts for texture. You can also add chopped apples. I've also seen chopped apples in a meatloaf, as well as olives and hard-boiled eggs. So the meatloaf is your design. But this is one of the ones that I use on a regular basis because I do like, again, a little bit more texture than just the beefy texture. Also, the recipe that I have created also has 6 dried apricots. I do not have dried apricots today, so what I'm going to be doing is I have an apricot preserve, and I am just scooping my apricot preserves and kind of guesstimating what 6 apricots would look like. I'm pretty good at measuring just by sight, so I'll just do that. Now, I have seasoning salt. I use this on nothing. So I'm going to be just using the seasoning salt. You can just use regular salt and pepper. I have this seasoning salt. I'm just going to pour right in there. And again, what you have on hand is what you can use. You don't have to go out and get anything fancy. I have some herbes de Provence that I think would go really great with that apricot and walnut flavor. And that should be enough. There's, in fact, in the recipe, it's not even included, but you're more than welcome to adjust that recipe as you wish. One thing I forgot to mention is if you wanted to make this a gluten-free, or not gluten-free, excuse me, if you want to make it more of like a low-carb option, you can use almond flour instead of the breadcrumbs. A little bit of pepper. All right. Now with clean hands, you want to mix this all together. It's the only way to mix meatloaf is with hands. So yes, your hands are going to be sticky with the apricot preserves. And the egg mixture, and you're just going to mix it up. And if I had photo editing or video editing software, I would fast forward this part because it's a long process. Also, if you miss this on Instagram, you'll also be able to find this on my YouTube channel. I'm going to be recording it for both here. It smells wonderful already. Doesn't look like it's fully mixed. It seems kind of wet. I would probably put a little bit more breadcrumbs in. And in fact, that's what I'll do. So let me just get all that hamburger off. It does have a great consistency now, but I know I kind of want it a little breadier. Just gonna wipe my hands off in this clean towel here, and bear with me while I untether myself from the microphone and get a few more breadcrumbs. Okay, that wasn't so bad, was it? But it is a new package, like I had said, and much smaller. I've realized I don't need that many breadcrumbs very often. These are slightly different. These are seasoned. I prefer doing unseasoned breadcrumbs, but when they're on clearance or at a discount price or on sale and I need them, which obviously I needed them, so that's when I went out and bought them. That should be plenty. And again, just mix this all together. And panko breadcrumbs are really gritty on the hand, so it's almost like you're exfoliating your skin. And it's like working with sand, like liquid sandpaper after a while. But, oh, that looks delicious, tasty. I can already feel like the walnuts in the mixture, and it's cleaning off from the side of the bowl, so you can see now that it pulled away, and now I kind of know that it's going to be perfect for a meatloaf shape. All right. That is mixed and done. Smack it. All right. So I need one other item or cooking item today, and that is a pan. Now, meatloaf usually goes in a bread pan, and you make it a meat, and then you try and get that meatloaf out of the pan and then slice it like a loaf of bread. That's the idea behind meatloaf, right? I found something that works out so much easier, especially because I have a fattier meat. It's an 80-20 mixture, not very lean. So I just use a basic sheet pan with a little bit of oil, and I try and shape it into a loaf. I just need a touch of oil. I feel that maybe a little bit redundant to oil the pan first and then put the kind of fatty meat on top, but it'll cook off and just into the pan, so no big deal. Give me a second while I just grab this oil. All right, so just add a little bit of oil to the bottom of the pan and pull out that meat mixture right into there. And now I'm going to shape it. And I'll turn it this way, see if you can shape it. I'm just making kind of like a long football shape. Swirl it around in that oil there. Get in there, you little onion. And see, my favorite part of the meatloaf is that crusty bit on top. Sometimes people put like some sort of glaze or gravy right on top. Usually it's like a tomato sauce or like a Worcestershire or even like a brown sugar topping to their meatloaf, which I'm all about because that's the best part. And that's what this little sheet pan is going to do. It's going to give me more of that crispy edge. And notice how it's not falling apart and it looks pretty much like a giant sausage. Ooh, that's really what I'm doing. Okay, wipe my hands. Lastly, I'm just going to put a little bit of olive oil on top. And like kind of like rub the whole bit of meat loaf with some of the olive oil. That'll allow it to be a little crusty on top. Make sure that it's formed properly. And I think I'm going to bake this around 375. It'll take some time, maybe like an hour and a half. Now, if you wanted this to be a weeknight meal, may I suggest, now that you've done this part, just putting it in the fridge, or if you had like it in the bread pan, which you can still do, I'm not telling you you can't, you can just leave it in the bread pan until you're ready to use it for like an hour or two, you know, overnight if you really wanted to. And then you can have it for a weeknight meal. Just bake it up as soon as you get home, and roughly around after work, it'll be ready within like an hour, 15 to an hour and a half. Some of them do cook if you're using turkey meat. Gotta tell you this. If you're gonna be using ground turkey, it'll be done in roughly 45 minutes. That is something that may be a little bit different, but this particular one I'm gonna leave in for about an hour and a quarter and check on it. So I will hopefully hear from you in regards to like what recipe you chose for your meatloaf. And if you're catching me on YouTube, I will see you in a couple of hours, and we will slice this baby open. Thanks for joining me today. My name is John. You can catch me at Cooking with John johngruber.com, also Cooking with John Gruber on YouTube, there and Cooking with John Gruber on Instagram. So there's all sorts of ways you can get a hold of me. Direct message me, leave comments below. You know how to get a hold of me. I'm always here to help. Thanks for stopping in. Bye. Perfection.